everyone. My name is Delia. I'm a director of marketing at Pivotry. And again, today we're continuing our Adapting to the New Reality video series where interviewing leaders from across various organizations and asking them what their perspectives are, what they've been hearing from customers and partners in terms of how to navigate the new reality. So today I have with me Corrick, our general manager of MDM, who will answer a series of questions and possibly shine some light on various ways how we can all sort of navigate the new normal. Hi, Derek. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, good to be here.
So my first question is, what market trends have you been seeing amongst our client base, from all the way from manufacturers, distributors, retailers? Is there a specific trend we're seeing now that it's been like almost 6 weeks that we've been quarantined, or are you seeing sort of different patterns?
As far as trends go, I mean, obviously we're seeing a lot of job loss, which is leading to reduced workforces, which means that things that companies were doing that try to put themselves in better competitive position, many of those projects have been put on hold. And sort of the irony in it is that a lot of those projects had to do with getting online, having better presence online, better customer experience, electronic customer experience, or digital customer experience, I should say. And so it's sort of an unvirtuous cycle of not enough resource to complete the projects. Business is softening. A lot of risk, a basic understanding that digital capability is what's required to survive in a situation like this. The notion that people are starting to realize that this may not be an isolated thing, that COVID could come back in the fall, other things like this could occur. So digital capability is becoming more and more imperative, but companies right now, in many cases, are struggling to corral the resources to really create that kind of capability.
Being a data expert, any recommendations on how organizations can leverage data with different various disruptions, like supply chain, inventory management, order fulfillment? There are all these disruptions now. How can data help?
Data is imperative to do the whole thing. So I mean, obviously, I think how data helps is pretty clear. I think it's the management of data that becomes the question. And so when you think about traditional organizations or how things are set up traditionally, each function is responsible for managing its own information. So you have the supply chain people, and they manage product data, customer data, vendor data for their own purposes. You've got the retail side, brick and mortar side that's doing the same thing. You've got the e-com side that's doing the same thing. You've got marketing and all the rest. And so one of the things that we find is that data management effort within an entire organization can be very time consuming, very expensive. And then what you often get is inconsistencies across systems, inconsistencies across business functions. So for me, thinking about what's the information that the enterprise actually needs to run, and making sure that that's being managed really as an enterprise asset, and then being fed out to the function. So when you think about it, supply chain's a function, buying is a function, selling is a function, and we sell across channels. So is that information readily available? Are we gathering it, maintaining it in a cost-effective way? If I have a disruption in my supply chain, is data going to be a readily available asset, or is it going to be something that I'm going to struggle to pull together? And if it's a readily available asset, that obviously reduces the friction in terms of how I address some of the other challenges. But if I'm fighting with data, at the same time I'm fighting with other factors, that just makes the job that much harder. And then of course, as I'm trying to do analytics and understand kind of where I'm at, I'm a bit lost. I don't know who to trust. I don't know where to turn, and I hope I'm making the right decisions, but I just don't know. And so that's where data really becomes key in making sure that you can, that you thrive in good times, and that you're able to manage your business.
When it comes to decision making, obviously in the times of crisis, like prioritizing different decisions and making the right decisions is critical. Do you have any recommendations to other leaders how to go about making those right decisions so they prioritize correctly?
It's kind of funny because, pre-COVID, post-COVID, I think are really different things. If I think about our own business, we were prioritizing growth. We were prioritizing things like investor value and free cash flow and things like that. And, our whole go-to-market strategy, was, I don't think it was different, but it was, we had a different kind of focus. We're looking at potential growth for acquisition and all kinds of other things that were really on our minds. Once COVID hit and we started to see, the impact on our customers, and we started to understand the impact on our people, and we started to understand, how we prioritize or our priorities shifted. So for me, I think that what's worked for us, we understand our mission, which is to help our customers in their most critical, points of their business where they, where they're really looking to succeed. It's, taking care of our people. It's making sure that we're good corporate citizens, and providing relevant solutions to the market. And if the market shifts and the solutions change, then we adapt to that because we recognize that we're in a big interconnected world. And so the way that things look today, they're not going to look that way tomorrow. So I think it's really, and so I think it's having your core set of values and what you're trying to accomplish, making sure you're always clear on the outcomes you're looking for, whether they be business outcomes like growth, or whether they be corporate responsibility outcomes like protecting lives and livelihoods. And then the actions that you take start to drive off of your values, drive off of your business priorities, and then ultimately lead you hopefully to making the right choices.
So it sounds like Pivotal Leadership has taken the right approach in terms of like going back to the values, reevaluating what the company stands for the times like these. And I think during the time of like panic and fear, there are a lot of like people make mistakes. People don't necessarily make the right decisions. Do you have any recommendations?
And I won't say we haven't made any mistakes. We're not going to make mistakes.
Well, the approach sounds like we've taken the right approach. What do you think like those most common mistakes that leaders make during the time of crisis? Or maybe what mistakes do you think like we've made that you could share that you could have avoided?
One of the things that I see people sometimes do is they get overly focused on the problem itself. When we first started, I think we had a very big focus on COVID, and you'll recall, Delia, it seemed like every meeting we went to for 3 weeks, that was maybe the only topic. And so there's a balance between we deal with the crisis, it's a problem. And then we start looking for our outlets. So this is how we're managing the crisis. That's in a box. And now there's the things that we have to do to take care of our customers. There's the things that we have to do to take care of people. One of the things that we've done is we've had some slowdown in work since this whole thing started. People postponing projects or having to do other things. So that left us with a little bit of resource bandwidth. So what we've decided to do is there've been some corporate projects that we've been backburnering for a while. So we decided to pull those forward and start making investments in the future. So I think one of the things that people often do is they'll retrench and say, hey, I'm going to just sit and do nothing, wait the thing out, really focus on it, and then maybe become a bit paralyzed. So for us, I think that was a risk for us. I think we started really focusing on it, but then we did make that shift to say, okay, well, there is going to be a post-COVID world, and we're so we're in the middle of it now. How do we get focused on our customers? So not being so internally focused. Now, how do we get ourselves stable enough that we can externally focus and start figuring out how we're going to help our customers? Number one, and number two is how do we not get so wrapped up in what's happening now? We lose sight of the fact that there's going to be an after now, and how are we going to put ourselves in the best position to deal with that? And are there investments we can be making now that put us in a better position going forward? And so those are some of the things that we've done, and so far they've been helpful for us. Obviously, the thing is not anywhere near over, and so as we go through this, as we go through this period of time, we've taken measures. We've got, we may have to take other measures. We're hoping we won't, but those are all laid out. We know what we have to do when we have to do it, but meanwhile, we're turning our attention to taking care of our customers and focusing on the future.
No, that's great. I find it really interesting. So both you and I know there are studies that basically show that companies that invest more during the time of crisis actually come out better in the end, which I find is kind of the opposite of what the rest of the world is doing. Majority of organizations are kind of, obviously, a lot of the world is cash strapped, so everybody's that self-preservation mode, but it sounds like Pivotry has found the right solution, meaning like, well, there are some resources that might have freed up within the organization, so you kind of can reallocate and reshift their priority to other projects, and even though you might be cash strapped, you can still be investing in another project with the reallocation of resources, which I find is a really cool way to look at it. Investment doesn't necessarily have to be cash investment. It could be reallocating your resources.
Exactly.
We're actually at the end of our interview today. My last question for you is a fun question. If you were to be born with a superpower, what would that be?
I have this discussion with my children frequently, so I'm prepared. And so, and apparently things like omniscience aren't fair games. So, so I would probably, I probably would go with super strength.
Like an Incredible Hulk type of thing?
Super strength with maybe a little bit more reason around it. So, but yeah, I've never had any big desire to fly. I've always thought Aquaman was pretty cool because I like to I like to scuba dive. So being able to swim underwater without scuba apparatus, I think would be, actually, I'll take that one. That one would be.
Okay, so Aquaman?
Yeah, Aquaman.
Well, thank you, Derek. Thank you so much. I hope our viewers found this conversation insightful. I definitely did, especially the investment angle of it. I think that was really great. And I love how we all keep going to the set of values that Pivotry has developed that sort of like is guiding us through different and difficult decision making through these times. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in our next episode. Thank you, Derek. It was nice having you. Bye.